Hey everybody, this is the Trout, aka Rick Troutman. Welcome to the Trout Show podcast. You know what I do? I interview musicians that are located all over this wonderful planet of ours that are very talented. Some of them you'll know, and some of them you may not know, but one thing I will tell you, you'll know about their life in the music industry. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee or your favorite adult beverage, and listen to our next episode coming up right now. Hey everybody, it's the Trout and welcome to another episode of the Trout Show podcast. Today I interview a very talented blues rock singer and New York Blues Hall of Fame inductee, Sari Schorr. Sari just finished up working on an album with the wonderfully talented Robin Trower, which is releasing really soon. But she's been really busy in her life as a blues singer. She's appeared late night with Conan O'Brien. She's worked alongside some of the top blues players, including Warren Hayes, Keb Mo, Taj Mahal, Eric Burton, and the famous Carly Simon, just to name a few. So sit back and enjoy this episode as Sari talks about her life in the blues music industry. Up next on The Trout Show, Sari Schorr. So tell me, how old were you when you started saying, the blues genre is my thing?
Okay. So my mother loves to embarrass me by telling everybody that I was singing by the time I was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And my first professional concert, because we charge money, was in my parents' living room. I think I was about 7 years old. It was neighbors and family. My poor parents must have twisted everybody's arm. And you know what? Nobody probably paid. My parents probably.
They paid them.
Yeah. I think it was 25 cents a ticket anyway. But we took the couch, spun it around. So it kind of looked like a stage. I stood on the couch and God knows what I sang. Yeah. You know, I thought writing the songs. Oh God. I think I should just start writing an apology notice to everybody for that. But yeah, so it was just, I've always defined myself through music, and being a singer wasn't ever what I did. It's who I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of an interesting thing, but that is true. And the one thing I say to everybody I've talked to, or people ask me, what's the one common thread or two common threads? First, everybody starts very young.
Yeah.
You're bitten by some of them. I had one, I think you said, what'd you say, 5 or something like that? I had one that was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Mine was 12. And I wrote my first song. I got my first paying job was playing a wedding gig for $25 when I was like 12. You don't forget that stuff. It's been a long time ago. When was your first big break in professional business, though? When did that come along? How old was that? How old were you then? The journey for me had a lot of different twists and turns, a lot of unexpected things. And now in hindsight, looking back, it's almost as every single move along the way had to happen to be connected to the next step, which brought me to the next place. But when things started to get easier for me, because I had accepted the fact that in order to do music, it would come with a lot of sacrifices. And I was absolutely prepared to take on board all those sacrifices, mm-hmm. and not to have the financial stability, not to have, a home base that I would get to spend much time at, and all the uncertainty, the risk, all those things. I didn't have a problem embracing any of that stuff, because I always knew that with great risk, the potential for great reward could happen. I believed it would happen. But things definitely got easier for me when Mike Vernon decided to come out of retirement to produce my first solo album. I had another album before, but it never was released because it was Mercury Records through Universal. And they had shut the division of Mercury down
right before my record got released. A lot of artists got caught up in
Who were
this.
they a subsidiary of?
Universal.
Oh, Universal. Okay. Yeah, because I remember getting albums on Mercury Records. And now you
Yeah,
just mentioned it, and I thought, oh my goodness, I haven't seen that for a long time. A lot of these
right.
labels are gone. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And it was a big shock to everybody. But when Mike Vernon came out of retirement, because he heard me perform in Memphis at
Mm,
the Blues Challenge. Now, I wasn't there because I was um, competing. I was there just to be a part of the blues community, which I love.
hmm.
And I wanted to support the artists that I knew, a lot of the artists that were performing.
Right.
And I just wanted to be there to support them. And someone told me about a luncheon where they were honoring the people behind the scenes, like the promoters, the agents, the record companies, the
Hmm.
producers. And Mike Vernon was getting Producer of the Year award. And I felt, you know what, I want to go and also support the people behind the scenes. And it was a closed luncheon. It wasn't a lot of people invited, but I went, and it was an expensive ticket. I think it was my food budget for the week. I was like, you know what? I'll eat a lot. It'll be fine. I just won't be hungry for a few days. But
Yeah.
you gotta go. You gotta go, and you're, here to support the artists, support the people working so hard behind the scenes too. And I just listened to Mike speak, and he was so eloquent and inspiring. And he said he had been retired and living in Spain. So I thought, what a great opportunity for me to meet him, because it's not duplicitous. There's nothing he can do to help me. He's retired. So
Right.
I can meet him and give him a compliment without him thinking that there's an ulterior motive behind
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
So afterwards, that's what I did. I just went over to him, and there were a lot of people waiting to speak to him, but I kind of cut through the crowd because I'm not good on lines. That's something that I've never really been good
You don't like to queue up
on.
very often then. Yeah. No.
No, but, and I made it real quick. And he said, "Who are you?" As I was walking out, and I was like, "No one." And I left. And I didn't tell him that night I had been asked to grace the stage at the Daisy Theater as a guest singer, and it was a real honor that they asked me to perform. And I didn't mention it to Mike, but it was one of those performances where just everything, the stars aligned. The band
Mm.
was great, the sound system was great. I had an absolute blast. John Del Toro Richardson was guitar player, and we just had so much fun. We had just met, and the next day, Mike had been trying to track me down because he had said, "Why didn't you tell me you were a singer?" And
But I knew, yeah, that's right. It wasn't meant, I mean, it was meant to be, but not the way you had the right idea.
yeah.
Absolutely the right idea.
So he asked if, he said that performance is, everyone is still talking about it. Is anyone producing you at the moment? Do you have a record out? And I didn't want to get into the whole disappointment with what had happened with Mercury Records. And I just said, no, I don't actually. And he said, well, send me some songs. Let me hear what you're doing. Let me hear if you can actually write songs. And then it was the exhaustive decision trying to decide which songs, because I had such a big catalog.
Mm.
What is going to make the best impression or the right impression?
And you never know. You never know.
Oh, so, but luckily, the songs I sent intrigued him enough to say, okay, come on over. I'm going to put together a writing session. And he had his guitarist come, and he had a blank piece of paper and a pen for me. And I never saw anything more terrifying in my life. And he's like, all right, let's write. And the TK Vanales playing guitar, and Mike's like, okay, go ahead, start singing, come up with a melody, come up with a lyric.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like thinking, I can't believe it. My whole life, everything I've worked so hard for, I've worked for years honing my craft. It's all going to come down to what I put on this white sheet of blank paper right now.
Right. Yep.
Looked over, kind of just, in disbelief of the situation I had gotten myself into. And there was a picture of Mike's wife on the shelf. And I knew that from his speech in Memphis that she had recently passed away.
Mm.
And I looked at the photo and it was beautiful. And in that instant, an entire song came to me. And I wrote the song Letting Go that's on my debut album right there. And that was enough to build my confidence and for Mike to get really interested in working with me further. And we wrote 3 songs and took them to the studio in Sevilla. 2 days later, I hadn't finished the 3rd song. But luckily, we hit a big traffic jam on the way to the studio, and that gave me the time to finish writing the lyrics. So when we got to the studio, I was ready to go. And
you're in a car. Shut up! I'm busy. I'm busy. Yeah. Hold on just a second. Yeah, I can see that.
More traffic.
Yeah.
What's the speed limit?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're slowed down. Keep going. Slow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, yeah. And then he said, "Okay, let's make a proper record together." And he said, "I'm going to come out of retirement because people need to hear what you're doing." And at that point, I had really, I had been very driven to try to achieve success earlier on in my career. But at this point, I had settled into the satisfaction of knowing that, hey, I'm a professional singer and songwriter. And yeah, it's hard and it's a struggle, but it's a privilege to do this work. So it's okay if I'm playing in, a small blues club where people are appreciating what I'm doing. If there's one person that is moved by my music, well, man, isn't that just like the greatest reward? Does it really matter?
Absolutely.
How many people are there to hear it? But it's rewarding on the other side when more people get to appreciate your music, because then you feel like you have a chance to make a greater impact. And that's really what it is. It's absolutely not about celebrity. It's not about money. It's just about the feeling that what you're doing is making some kind of a contribution, like your life matters for something bigger than yourself.
But you just proved another point that I see over and over again. There's a risk factor in everybody that I've seen that's been successful. They did something that was out of the ordinary. I've had people, I think my favorite story was a country artist that lived in a small town in Nebraska. And he always the town was like 1,000 people. It wasn't very big. He says, "I want to go to Nashville." And they're like, okay. So the town actually saved up enough money to send him to Nashville.
That's beautiful.
And so he went there in his pickup truck, I think it was, and worked 7 years, working day jobs, going to the clubs at night and all that stuff until now he's successful at what he does. And I see that all the time. And I had another one that said, I just walked on, can I come up and play with the band one time? This was in Nashville. This was a different band. And if he hadn't have done it, so if you hadn't have been there and said, do that, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. You might be still doing something else. And I think the thing that Mike what you were saying was, that was a test. If you go back and think about it, because I'm sure you're like me. I write everything right here. I'm sitting right here in my studio, whatever. I do a lot of stuff. I may get an idea when I'm driving around or something like that. But to sit down and say, and I tell people, I can write a song. Sure. I can write you 1, 4, or 5 song right now. It'd suck, but I can write it. Yeah. But so I can imagine what that thought process was. You want me to do what? There's a piece of and you got a guy with his knowledge. You're like, okay, here we go. But then you did that, and look at all the things that have passed. I looked at your bio and all the people that you've had the opportunity to perform with. And I'll get to Robin later in a minute, but look at 2 people that you've had an opportunity to cross paths with. Some of the greatest blues people are out there and other musicians. So a lot of people don't understand this, and I think it's kind of funny. They don't know how good they really are. There are people that know they're good and they kind of exude that. But then there are other people that just have that. They always call it kind of the imposter syndrome. I'm not really shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell people the same thing. You're not there because you suck. You're there because you're good. I mean, Robin Trower didn't go, hey, I think she sucks. I want her to put on my record. No, I mean, so that's got to make you feel really good because you've worked hard at it. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And it's also the internal part that says, okay, I am this, I'm good at what I do and I can continue to do it. And now look where we are.
I think the most important thing, no matter what you do, and it's not just music, but any pursuit that you are passionate about, is the desire to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Because with that desire
Yep.
comes the ability to focus and commit yourself, commit the time, and have the resilience to deal with the hard days and overcome the challenges and overcome the failures. The desire to be great at something you love. And I think all the greatest artists that I've met, there's an underlying confidence. You reach a certain point and you know that there's a level, you've reached a level of whatever that measurement is, and it's so arbitrary. And then one person's good is absolutely not someone else's good either. We think about how many incredible artists not everybody agrees is incredible.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's a very subjective game. But the most important thing, I don't think about how good I am. I think about what can I do to continue to hone my craft so I can be something that I love to do, can be of value to other people. And everything we do, no matter what it is, we are always learning, because we are always, as individuals, evolving and discovering. And if we can maintain the curiosity and infuse that into the things that we love to do, that's the first step towards greatness.
Are you concerned about your financial health? Then why don't you count on an expert that has years of experience of helping people just like you reach their financial possibilities? That's David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587. David has years of experience of helping people just like you. So reach out to him today, 469-372-1587. David Smith with Edward Jones.
And for me, I think about it as a continuing journey of discovery.
Oh, yeah. That's the one thing I like about music. I've been a guitar player for decades. You never stop learning.
Never.
I mean, and I might pick up somebody's lick that I go, oh, I never thought about that before.
Right.
And it's not that you want to go, okay, I want to steal that lick and do it, but everybody does it. You just don't mentally know that you're doing it. So that's the other thing I tell people. It's like, you can't stop learning. I mean, yeah, you can. I go back to, was it this week? The Stones came out for the first album in 18 years. Mm-hmm. And I got to hear a little bit of it. And of course, what did it sound like? The Rolling Stones. I mean, they don't need to do that. But, it's, I guess, and people like me, do you think they can still write great songs? Probably surely could, when the Glimmer Twins get together. But when did okay, so you started performing with these great people and all that stuff. I want to ask you something about your name real quick. Where did you get your first name? How did that?
My father made it up, although I have met those Saris even at my own wedding, who was born on the same day as well.
Oh, wow.
She married my husband's best friend. Crazy coincidence. But my mother loved the name Sally from Little Women, but my father dated a Sally.
So she's
he just made a little minor alteration. And yeah.
So tell me about, because that's one of the reasons we're here, how did this thing with Mr. Trower come about?
So Robin and I are managed by the same manager. And I had supported Robin a number of years ago before COVID hit. But it's funny, we really didn't get to know each other then, because I was told as the support, make sure you give Robin plenty of space. He's very focused before a show, as I am. And I wanted to be, invisible. And I did a really good job of being invisible, but we would pass each other, like after my set, as he was, getting ready to go on stage. We would pass each other backstage, and he would say, wow, that was amazing. That was great. And he was very, very supportive. But in the pandemic, because he wasn't touring as much, something started to sink in, and he started to become more curious about my work. And because he had extra time from not touring, he started writing some songs for me and sent the first song over. I was in New York, and I loved it. And so it was just him and an acoustic guitar. And you could hear it was a great song. So then I said, I love it. So he sent me just the guitar so I could put a vocal down. So I recorded the vocal in my studio in New York, and then sent it back to him. And he thought it was exactly what he was looking for. So he sent me 2 more songs, and I love those too. But I was afraid he wasn't going to think I was being honest. So I said to him, do me a favor, Robin, I need you to send me a bad song so you know that I have the capacity to tell you, maybe it's a good song, but it's not for me. I want you to know that I'm really being sincere, because, I think it's cruel if you're not honest with someone when someone wants your opinion. You have to have integrity and be honest, always be honest. But I loved 3 songs in a row. So then I came back to the UK to tour, and right after the tour was over, we went into the studio, recorded the 3 songs, one day, almost one take, done, next done, next done. And he said, if you want a world-class record, let's do one together.
Wow.
And I said, why not? And instead, his record label held back the release of his solo album, so our collaborative record could come out before that. So it's a Robin Trower record featuring Sari Schorr.
Yeah.
That's going to be out October 27th on Mascot. Just great label, and they're excited. They're as excited as we are about the record.
Well, the one thing that got me was the fact that I never thought of Robin as a blues player. Now, and that's really what intrigued me about listening to you guys. Was I thought, everybody in my age group, of course, being that I was a Hendrix fan and actually had the privilege of seeing him perform. When Bridge of Sighs come out, I went, okay, here's the next guy that's going to be like Hendrix, because he had this kind of, I don't know how you say it, the sound that he had, his own sound. It's kind of like a lot of famous beat. And
completely unique.
And I thought, okay, great. And then, of course, the thing about it, and I'm thinking about doing this, really, I'm thinking about reaching out to everybody, those that listen to me or that talk to me, and everybody that's over 70 that's still performing, that I enjoyed younger. Because I knew Robin how old he was. As I was mentioned, Walter Trout. I know how old these guys are. They have, and the thing about it for me is the stories they can tell, but the fact that they're still doing it, and the fact that he reached out to you tells you a lot about your sound, but your quality. So that really, I started listening to it, and I went, didn't expect that. And then I went to his YouTube, and being a guitarist, he goes, well, here's do my British accent, but I'm not going to embarrass myself. Here's the pedals I use, because that's exactly, as a guitar player, you're like, okay, what's he doing? And when I found out a lot of these guys like him, they don't, especially the guys in his age group, they don't use a bunch of stuff. They don't have to. It's like Eric Clapton. He uses like 1 pedal or 2.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't see a floor of like 50 different things pushing this button and all that button. And I said, that's all he's got. He doesn't need anything. He's Robin Trower.
That's
So
right.
are you guys is he going to come out and do anything with you? Have you got any opportunity for you guys to come together, do some stuff? I mean, you're going to UK or you've been to UK, so.
Yeah, we would love to. And uh, there's some discussion now about what's possible.
Yeah.
I think it'll happen. But in the meantime, at least we have filmed this concert so that I know a lot of his fans in the States have missed seeing him. It's
Oh,
been
yeah.
40 years,
Yeah.
4 long years. And he misses his fans. He loves his fans and he really wants to get back out there. It's just for him a question of when it's really safe for him. He has a daughter that has some immune compromise issue. So he's a really good father.
How's he doing physically?
He's doing great.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really taking care of himself, and his diet is really healthy, so he's strong and fit, and he's got incredible stamina. I mean, he can focus for hour after hour in the studio. And that's us. I learned a lot from him, watching how he works, the intensity and the absolute love and joy that he has creating and playing music. I mean, there's no tension in what he does. It's funny. The record is so appropriately titled because the record's called Joyful Sky. And when being in the studio with Robin, it's nothing but joyful. Which doesn't mean it's not hard work. He really applies himself because he wants to achieve greatness. But it is, there's no fear, there's no negativity. It's supportive, it's loving, and there's just tremendous enthusiasm. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is when you're into someone of that caliber and you come in and you're standing there and you're looking, and I'm sure this crossed your mind when you're in the studio with him. Okay, I'm here with Robin Trower. How did the hell did this happen? And it's almost like it's a pinch yourself moment. Tell me a little bit about what your band is now that you're traveling with, comprised of the great people that I just got through meeting earlier. Tell me a little bit about their background.
So, I have a fabulous band, and they are really an extension of my family. I spend more time with them than my family.
Yeah.
Ash Wilson on guitar, Phil Wilson, his brother, on drums, Roger Innes on bass, and Adrian Gautry on Hammond. And there's when you like the people you work with, and for me, that's a non-negotiable position.
Oh, yeah.
I used to make a lot of compromises in my life. I won't do that anymore because
No, you're too good for that. You're too good for that.
You know what? It's you learn that the people that you spend so much of your life with have a tremendous impact on the quality of your own life. And I want to be with open-hearted, warm-hearted, loving people. I don't want to be dealing with people with egos, people that are a lot of work. I mean, I do humanitarian work, and I'm happy to use those skills, when I'm not focused on music. Music takes too much focus and energy to have, any internal pressure.
Well, you don't need drama. You got enough drama when you travel and all that stuff. You don't need it. So now that you mention it, tell me a little bit about your humanitarian work then that you do.
I wish I had more time. I do work in India, in a little village called Soda, India, in Rajasthan. And I do some work in Haiti. I started after the earthquake. I'd gone down there, and it started because I did a concert to raise money for Haiti, and then met people who were associated with an orphanage there and got involved with them and met incredible people. Incredible. And I was just in an earlier interview with a Norwegian radio station here. We were talking about how giving people are who have the least. I mean, it's
Isn't that
so
the truth? It's funny, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, and it was just in, incredible experience. But it informs who I am, my perception of who I am in the world, and it reminds me how fortunate I am. And we all can get caught up in our own problems and easily distort the things that happen in our own lives. But when you see the real suffering that's going on, I'm
And you
not
get
going
to, and you're privileged to be able to do what you get to do.
absolutely, I'm not going to complain about a canceled flight or having a screw up with the hotels, which after you're traveling for 12 hours and you get to the hotel, you found out the promoter gave you the wrong address, and the hotel you were supposed to be at, you passed an hour ago. The whole band and I, we went, oh, well, too bad. Turn around, let's go back. There's no drama. It's just, we are grateful for what we do. And, these are all these experiences that we have, they help me become a better storyteller, because that's what I do. My job is telling stories. So every day that I can accumulate more stories and have them mean something, the better I am at being able to communicate a story effectively.
That's what life is all about. And as you get older, things change and you get smarter and dumber about other things. But the last thing I want to ask you before I get off here, because I know you're going to be I would imagine you're going to have sound check pretty soon. If I know that.
Yes, we are.
Tell me about this facility you're playing in tonight. Is it a small club? Is it another? What is it like?
Now I asked, we have a tour manager, and they said that they're expecting 3,000 to 4,000 people.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's quite a nice setup. They've got 4 different stages. It's called Hell, Norway. It's actually, the town is called Hell.
I have heard of that town in Norway, believe it or not. Yeah, I have.
And it was very funny because when I did that radio interview, they played King of Rock and Roll, and they asked me, well, so what is this song about? And I said, well, I wrote this song about the great legend of Robert Johnson, the one where he sold his soul to the devil.
Crossroads. Yeah.
Yep. And the radio personality said, well, a perfect song to play in hell. Here's King of Rock and Roll. Like, yeah,
I listened to that tune. I thought, I wondered what it was about too, but now that you told me, now that I know, so I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking time out of your touring to talk to me, and I wish you lots of success with this new album.
Okay, thank you so much.
Have a good night. See ya. Bye-bye.